Okay, what's up everyone, I'm Captain Kris. Okay, so this will be the fourth different time I've tried to set up this camera angle. I have no idea if this is going to work or not. I'm an illustrator, graffiti artist, mural artist, whatever you want to call it. Decided to do this project with Nass Festival. They put a load of options out on their Instagram and you guys have chosen what you want. And I'm going to try and interpret that in my style, try and make something a bit interesting. So I think it was a full color animal based around drum and bass and skateboarding, keeping it proper Nass. And then there's going to be like a process vid, so you can just follow along and try and explain like how I work and how I go about it, so you can kind of follow along, maybe inspire yourself to do something during quarantine. I'm going to try and keep it interesting, let you see how I do things. So let's get it. Before I actually get into the process, I'm just going to show you what I'm using. I use Photoshop for all my colouring. I generally find it's quite easy to do it on a bigger screen on a monitor. This Wacom tablet down here, I'm going to use the iPad and use Procreate. It's really good for like sketching, pretty close to how you would do it with like a pencil and a piece of paper. And then this, which is just a super basic template, which I use just for kind of digital colouring. And that's it. So I'm going to start here. Okay, so the first thing I usually do is start off with something that's like a blue to do my outlines. Just sketching, pick a pencil tool, that, and then just start sketching. I decided I'm going to do a llama. It's my favorite animal. It looks like a weird sheep with a long neck. I'm going to give him some glasses, kind of work on his nose here, trying to make it look right, trying to get the shape of the head right. I'm going to give him a kind of protruding jaw, trying to just kind of keep it loose, not really think about it too much. Just give him the Bucky hat there. Now I just kind of work on the body. I'm not really sure quite how to do it. So I started off first doing it kind of like an animal body, kind of round. I mean, it's cartoon, so it's weird in a shape, but you know. So he's got 4 legs, and then I thought, no, do you know what? I'm gonna do it so that he's got kind of like a more humanized body. He's still gonna have fur and everything and be a bit kind of llama-esque, but I'm gonna give him hands and feet so he can have little skate shoes on. He can ride the deck a little bit better. I quite often just work like that just because I kind of like to humanize my characters a bit. Yeah, then now just trying to work out where to put everything. I guess like where to put the arms, where to put the legs. Give him a little bag. He's gonna have a cool funky shirt. Put him in a pair of shorts. I'm a big fan of cartoons, so I like to kind of reference a lot of stuff from when I was growing up, and like cartoons and comic books and all that kind of thing. And yeah, gripping the boards now. Little tail at the back. And then I just kind of mess around with it until the things kind of look right. I mean, I'll mess it up quite a few times, but it's kind of the fun of sketching it. You kind of mess it up, rub it out, change it, work out what looks good. So I've done him kind of grabbing the boards, taking a selfie. He's going to be in the rave. I give him a little chain around his neck as well, just to rep Nass while I'm doing this. Just going to give him a little bit of bling here. Put a bit of drum and bass. I'm going to put like a speaker stack in the background, make it look like he's skating through the rave. When I colour all this, you can kind of see how I'll separate it, the foreground from the background as well. I mean, that's pretty much it. Now I'm just going to throw in the details and the speakers a little bit near the end of how I'm going to finish the sketch, and then I'm going to move on to the line work. So that's pretty much it for the sketch. Just kept it pretty loose. There's not a real exact science to it or anything. Sometimes I'll work with different shapes to kind of clump it together first, but this one I just kind of sketched it and kind of moved things around and chopped and changed things and rubbed things out until it looks kind of right. That's why I like using the iPad and Procreate, because you can kind of chop it up a bit more. I just find that it makes it a lot quicker when I'm working digitally like this. So then at this point now, I'll kind of leave that just as it is and then move on to inking the line work. So I'll do it in black over the top of the blue lines that I've done. It's the next step. Okay, for this bit here, I'm not really going to chat too much over it. I'm just going to go over all of the pencil work that I've done in like a black. I'll pick like a paintbrush tool so that all the lines are a lot cleaner. I call it inking because you'd use a pen on top of the pencil usually, but it's digital. I still call it inking though. You'll see me also kind of keeping some areas a little bit separate, just so that when I get to the colouring stage, it's just a bit easier for me with some of the things like the sunglasses and the phone and the background on the speakers. Those are pretty much the only things that I'm going to separate. So now I'm just going to get into it, just going to work on the line work, going over everything. So here we go. Okay, so that's it for inking all the line work. Just kind of cleaned everything up, tidied it as I've gone along, tapered off some of the edges. I've kept the speakers in the background a slightly different colour just so that I can separate it while I'm working. Some of the areas like the teeth I haven't filled in because I'm going to do that when I colour it, which is the next step. So let's get into that. Okay, so for the colouring stage, we're actually going to jump from the iPad into Photoshop. So I'm going to mix things up a little bit here. This is probably the longest part of the process. Can hopefully find a bit of a balance between me chatting about what I'm doing and then just watching what I'm doing on screen as well. So I sped this up to about 2,000 times what I was working at when I was doing this, just because I like to spend a lot of time on the colours, just messing around with things. So first we're throwing all the flat colour fills, just knocking in solid colours into all the different areas. A lot of the time you'll see me make a selection and then I'll just fill it. And I'm going to do a full colour piece here, but I'm going to start with some of the Nass brand colours for this year. After I've got all the fill colours in there, I'll go around all of the outlines and kind of tweak them so that they're a similar colour to whatever the fill is. So like dark green for a green and like a dark orange or red for the orange areas. This whole process doesn't take too long. Just makes everything look a bit nicer, ties it all together a bit more. At this point here I just added a bit of a gradient in the background just to give the speakers a bit of depth. And just add a little camera flash here. I always like to add a few things in the foreground as well, so I'll do some kind of flowing rocks, and you'll see me add a few other things later on as well. So for the shadows, I'm just kind of working out my light source is kind of coming from the left. I'm not really thinking about it too much. I'm doing this quite quickly, so I'm just kind of punching in the shadows onto the kind of right hand side of the piece. The light is kind of coming from the phone. So I'll use an adjustment layer with a curve on it to tweak all of the colors, just because it's a quick way of doing them all at once. If it's a fill color with a green, it will come out dark green. Same thing with purple, dark purple, etc. So the next stage I'll just throw in some highlights on the left hand side of it. So it's pretty much the exact same process as the shadows, except that it's just lightening up the color instead. I'm just kind of making this up as I go along. It's not photorealism or anything, so you can just have a bit of fun with it. And then just adding some details on the lights on the teeth, on the gold chain. For the background, to kind of separate it and make it look a bit more interesting, I'm going to add this kind of fade on the speakers. And I'll just mess around with this for a while until it kind of looks right. Decided also here just to add a bit of detail on the speakers, just to make them look a bit more solid. A little bit of shadow can kind of go a long way just to make things kind of stand out a bit. And then I'm just going to play around with these colors until I kind of get them right. You'll see me do this over and over again to try and work things out, because I'm never happy with anything. I think I spent a good chunk of the time just trying to work out what kind of background color to do. And then, I mean, this last stage is just kind of extras. I'll just throw in some brush marks, add loads of lens flares and glows and that kind of thing, just to kind of give the speakers a bit of depth and make it look like a big stack, so he's kind of towering above him. And at this point here, I always like to add some kind of like smoke or something kind of solid on the top. It's just kind of something that I like to do on a lot of my pieces, just to kind of put something in the foreground, just to make it kind of stand out a bit more. I like things to be relatively busy. You'll kind of see me just adding lots of little bits of debris and some kind of clouds and all that kind of thing. And this kind of final touch here, I just add like a little white glow on the left hand side. I'm adding that light flare just because of the phone, and just to make it kind of pop a little bit more, give it a bit more shape. And then I just added a little bit of lighting just to darken up the bottom part of the character as well. Throw a little Captain logo on here. I always add a little trademark character, which is my little guy that I've been painting for a while. Kind of like a bootleg Captain America. I'm just going to add a few more little details as well. Just going to put some flowers on the shirt here. Change the color of the background just because I couldn't decide on what I wanted it to look like. I just felt like that looked a little bit better. And that's it. That's just kind of how I work sometimes. I don't do things the same every single time, but it's just kind of a quick way to color things. Just throwing flat colors on there, adding some shadow, then throwing a few lighting effects and flares on there just to make it pop a little bit. And there you go, that's it. That's my full color llama riding a skateboard through a drum and bass rave. Okay, so that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Never done one of these before, so hopefully it went down well. Wasn't too boring. So you can check out more of my stuff on my Instagram or my website. If you've got any questions, just hit me up and ask me. I'll get back to you. Let me know if you found this helpful. Hopefully this has kept you entertained while you're in quarantine. Until next time, stay safe.
Oh,